Are live. So, first of all, just a big welcome to everyone who is watching us, joining us live. If you're watching the replay of this, then obviously we're not going to be able to get to your questions, but hopefully the information is still valuable. And a huge thanks to you, John, for joining us today. Just taking your time out. It's a weird time to be alive, isn't it?
It is. It is. I must admit, mine. It's not as if my diary's very busy at the moment, Michael. But appreciate you asking me and inviting you on to the call.
Good. Well, I couldn't think of anyone with more sort of relevant and down to earth experience just to get us through this. Purpose of today's call really is to focus specifically on the property management, the tenant management side of things, what we need to be aware of as we go through this pandemic. We had a call yesterday on the mortgage side of things, mortgage finance, payment holidays and all that sort of stuff, which was really good. If you missed that, you'll be able to catch it on the channel. And we've got a few more coming up. I was just speaking to JP about the announcement at 5 o'clock today. We will be wrapped up well in advance of that, so you can go and see what's going to happen for all you small business owners. And we'll probably get an accountant on in the next day or so as well to run through some of that detail. But today, like I say, the focus really is on property management, tenant management, making sure that our houses, our tenants, they're all looked after as best they can be, and obviously that our businesses can survive this as best they can anyway. But yeah, just to get us started, it'd be great to get a bit of a background on you, just your experience. I know you've got a ton of it, but for people who haven't come across you before, who you are, where you're based, what you're up to.
Yeah, so I'm John Paul from County Durham in the northeast of England. You can probably tell by the accent. I've got a string of letting agents and estate agents. We've got 10 at the minute. We manage just over 2,000 houses, 60 staff, sell about 500 houses a year. I've got a consultancy and a training company that teaches estate agents and letting agents how to become better at that. So it's very much, I'm a landlord as well, a portfolio landlord. So it's very much focused around lettings, sales and consultancy.
Perfect, good stuff. So like I say, plenty of experience there, and I guess the truth of it is, you probably weren't expecting this more than anyone else. So it's a surprise to you. It's new to you. You're trying to evolve and keep on top of things as best you can. But I think the main things that we're going to try and touch on today, rent is a big one. Not just from us as landlords, property owners, we've got mortgages to pay, we've got to put food on our own families' plates, but also most of us want to be supportive of our tenants in this time as well. So looking at the whole rent process, looking at maintenance issues, what we can do, what we can't do, what we have to do. The government have given us some leeway on a few things as well. Viewings and check-ins, because if we've got vacancies, that could be something that's given us a bit of stress. And then longer term as well, we'll try to get your views on where you think the market's going to go, the long-term impacts of this. We'll see how much we can cover in the next 45 minutes or so. And for anyone who is with us live, obviously stick your questions in the comments. If we don't touch on anything, we'll come to those questions and make sure that we get answers for whatever's on your mind. But I think let's just start with the big one, the rent situation. And thinking about it, first of all, from a tenant's point of view, we will probably find ourselves having to be counsellors, advisors, support workers for our tenants, our housemates over the coming weeks. What should we be saying to them, and what should they be doing if they find themselves in financial difficulty and they can't pay their rent, or they can't pay all of their rent?
I mean, the first thing we've got to do is we're human beings first, landlords second. So we have to be as empathetic and as sympathetic as possible. This isn't a case of I won't pay. This is physically a can't pay. Now, I'm going to take it a caveat that the person is genuine and they really have been affected by the Corona-19 virus. Maybe they've been made redundant. I mean, for example, we had one lady who was in a chain with us buying a house, and she had to pull out because she sold big TV screens to event companies, and she was self-employed. Obviously, pretty much, well, every event in the UK has been cancelled, so she pulled out of a chain. So we had to be sympathetic. We didn't have to be, but we were. It lost us income, but it's people before profits. So I think the first thing we have to do is understand the situation. Yes, of course, we've got to make sure that it's genuine, and there's we can easily do that. But then we have gotten an option. This isn't a case of they can't pay, therefore we're stuck. This is a case of they can't pay, so then we can go get our payment break or payment deferment from our mortgage company. So yes, it's not great. Yes, it's not perfect, but it means that we're not going to be, we're not going to lose out. So if they're genuine, empathy and sympathy, because we want them to be a good tenant, and they will not forget this. The vast majority of tenants are really, really good people, just like the vast majority of landlords are. So I think we can use that. Go to our landlord, go to our mortgage company, get that 3-month payment break, or kick the can down the road, and then everybody wins in a very difficult circumstance.
Yeah, and you said there about making sure it's a genuine reason and it's relatively easy to do that. What sort of stuff would you be looking for your tenant to provide to make sure that they're not taking the piss?
Just evidence, really. So it's quite funny actually. As soon as that announcement was made, 9 o'clock on the dot, we had phone calls.
Yeah.
When you manage 2,100 properties, and the first one that phoned us up was actually a housing benefit tenant, saying, "Do they still have to pay the rent?" And we went, "Technically, you don't actually pay your rent. Technically,
yeah.
What about my top up, my £5 a month top up? When you've still got to pay it, mate." So you've just got to ask brutal, honest questions like, "What's happened? I can't pay my rent, but why? Or being made redundant. Have you got evidence of that? Have you got a proof? Or they just told us over the phone. We need it in writing." So you're not trying to make it difficult for difficult sake. You're just trying to make it slightly more challenging. So if they are genuine, they will pull the stops out, and then they will get that evidence to you.
Yeah.
So you can be, because at the end of the day, Michael, you're going to be asked these questions by your mortgage company. Your mortgage company's going to say, "Yeah, Michael, no problem. Yeah, we'll just give you a 3-month break." So you've got to think, well, I'm going to get asked these difficult questions, so I'll ask these probing, difficult questions to my tenant. And if they're genuine, then it won't be hard to prove.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I think since this was first announced, there have probably been a few things that have hopefully reduced the likelihood of this happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the employee's been furloughed, they should be still getting 80% of their salary, their wage. So in theory, you'd expect them still to be paying some of their rent. Maybe 80% seems fair. That you might be able to offer them a discount of some sort. But is that the sort of route you're going down as well?
That's exactly what we're doing. We're doing an income and expenditure. I mean, literally, considering the size of the portfolio we've got and a lot of the demographic we've got, low income families, even though they're working, we have had a very, very, very small amount. I think you can count on one hand the amount of people we've had to go to the landlords. And I think it's just about asking the questions. Fantastic, right? Okay, I understand you're on 80%, or you've reduced hours, or your commission's been cut, but you've still got a job. Fantastic. So what have you done about getting your car payments reduced? Have you gone to Eon? What have you done to your banks for the loans? What have you done this? Because, I don't know about you, Michael, but the things that matter the most to me is a roof over my head and food on the table. Everything else is a sort of a luxury. So, make sure the rent's able to be paid. If they're genuine and they can't, they say, "Look, it's really, really making us, it's close to the bone." Fine, great. So rather than not pay your rent, how about we just get 25% deferred? Would that help you out? 50% deferred, would that help you out? Fantastic. So then the landlord can either take the hit for a 3-month, because if they've got cash reserves or they've got multiple properties that can take the hit, or then they can go to the mortgage company. Because one thing we have to remember is that the mortgage company will say, yes, that's a 3-month or potentially longer, but it just gets added to the loan. Yeah. So your mortgage will actually go up a couple of pence or a couple of quid in certain circumstances.
Yeah, we spoke about that a lot yesterday, and it should ideally be a sort of last case scenario to go and do that. If you can avoid it at all possible, then you should be. I guess the other thing as well, if they have genuinely lost their jobs, what we have seen in the local area, supermarkets are staffing up like crazy just now. Temporary workers. There are ways that we can look to help them out in that case as well. Temporary employment. Apparently, I don't know how easy it will be. It never seems to be the simplest process in the world, but apparently they're going to make the universal credit process easier, so they should be able to access some proportion of their rent. Well, I know.
But also increase the LHA rates as well. So if they're claiming housing benefit or they're able to claim it, they can claim quite a high proportion now that helps go towards the rent. Yeah. So I know we briefly spoke about it, but there's a lot of ways that the government are trying to do, other than self-employed, but we'll wait till 5 o'clock to see what Rishi's got to say. They are helping a lot of people, and that sort of trickles down, and the landlord should benefit from it.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully it's not going to be as common. Stephen's just asked here how many of your tenants have contacted to say they cannot pay, if any. I mean, out of the 2,000 and odd, as a percentage, is it fairly negligible, or?
You're talking about 1.5%.
Okay.
Like about 30, if that.
Yeah.
And then I think we've allowed 5 or 6 that have got payment breaks or payment holidays because they generally have you come into hard times or being made redundant or whatever, because after the income and expenditure, but very, very small amount.
Yeah,
I think it's a pride thing as well. A lot of tenants are quite proud.
Yeah, especially in the northeast.
Yeah,
It's a
very much.
good place to be from.
Yeah.
But I think from our point of view, we like you, when it was first announced, straight away you had a few people that were like, "Oh, I can take advantage of this." Since then, it's definitely trickled off. It hasn't been as many as I thought it would be. And I think two things that you've mentioned, I appreciate I'm swearing at the camera there, but two things that you've mentioned, I think are key. First, communication. Keep talking to them. Have that compassion and empathy. But equally, don't be the easy option.
Yeah.
It's your income or it's your landlord's income if you're managing for them, and you can have a sort of empathetic discussion with someone without being a walkover, and that's what some people will be looking for. So I think you do need to stand your ground to an extent.
I mean, a good point to note is we're the middle person. So if the tenant gets a payment holiday, then we can't get the rent to get our commission off to pay the landlord. So that's why we are quite strict with, are you sure? Let's have a look at income and expenditure. Have you got 20 minutes? Because we need to go through your outgoings and your income. And quite a lot of them have said, do you know what? I'll just pay my rent. We weren't being really too difficult. We were just asking some questions. Now, in my opinion, if you can't answer those questions, then you're not in that difficulty in the first place.
Yeah.
So from a selfish point of view, we're a business. We need to make that income, but also we're acting on the best interests of our landlords by not putting them in a financial difficult situation.
Yeah, absolutely. There will be times when things do become problematic. Tenants stop communicating, they disappear and move back in with family, something like that. The whole eviction process, there's been a lot of news about this. There's been some change to it recently. I think that actually rather than preventing eviction, they've just extended the notice period. But I mean, if it does come down to a complete breakdown between tenant and landlord, what's the situation with evictions at the moment? Section 21, Section 8 notices.
Yeah, so originally it was in the bill that you couldn't evict a tenant full stop in the first 3 months, in the next 3 months. But now you can actually serve notice, but nobody can be forced to leave their premises, leave their home. Any ones that were going on before the situation, they still stand. But, at the end of the day, the courts are shut down. A lot of the judges, as you can imagine, are that age group where they need to be self-isolating. So there's going to be no judges on the circuit anyway. So from that perspective, nothing's going to happen now. I would put pressure on guarantors. I would try and get the communication open as best you can, without obviously going too far and harassing them. A lot of people will be, with all due respect, I'm a landlord. I'll be low down on the pecking order of some tenants' priority list, especially if they've actually caught the bloody thing or a loved one has. So again, we've just got to be that little bit empathetic, but a little bit forceful. And it's that fine balance of not being a complete and utter douche as a landlord, but also realising that this is probably the majority of people's income. So it's that fine balance, and it's quite tough.
Yeah, no, it really is. And I think each case is going to have to be dealt with on an individual basis. I don't think there is one rule going forwards. I did have a specific question on Instagram from someone saying about other ways of pursuing rent whilst notices have been, and this was an issue that they say has been going on for a couple of months. A tenant stopped paying their rent in January. They don't want to be construed as this terrible person now, because they're like, oh well, I need this money back. They're 3 months in arrears. I don't want to evict them during everything that's going on, but I still need to protect my position. So are other options like small claims courts, money claim online, is that something that can still be done? Has that been impacted at all by the coronavirus bill?
I mean, not that I'm aware, but I mean, in order to get a money claim online, you need a final payment. So it's always best to evict the person and then do a money claim online, because then arrears, damage, any other monies that are owed via that way. I hear what the person who asked the question and why they're feeling that way. But look, at the end of the day, it's a business, and somebody, when they're getting taken to court, 9 times out of 10, somebody is in the wrong and somebody is in the right. Hence why somebody wins and somebody loses. If a tenant is not paying their rent and they're not communicating, and there's no mitigating circumstances that you're aware of, then they are leaving you with no choice. Don't feel guilty because of the tenant's miscommunication. I think the person just needs to actually go with it. A lot of the time, when they actually do get the letters, they do get back in contact with us because now they know, pardon my French, shit's got real. So I think a lot of the time when they're not communicating, when we send them the pre-action protocol letter, the 14 days before we can go to money claim online, the tenants do get in contact with us, or at least the guarantors do anyway. So if this person the tenant's got a guarantor, I would also try and use them as leverage.
Yeah, that would always help. I guess it's not always going to be the case that someone's there. But if they are, then oftentimes you go to the guarantor and they've got far more concern about their credit score than the tenant does.
Absolutely.
Just another question here, and then I'm going to move us on to the sort of maintenance side of things. If a tenant says they can't pay, should you be asking to see things like bank statements or letters from their employers to prove they can't pay? What's the best thing to say? I think you've kind of touched on this before.
Yes, we have. As much information as you can, and don't feel, well, can I ask that? You can ask it. They can say no.
Yeah.
If it's genuine, they'll pass it on. Yeah. They can redact some information, if not. But to say that somebody's got made redundant, or they've been furloughed, it's perfectly legitimate question.
Yeah, I mean, if you went to your credit card company and said I can't pay, they're going to ask for this sort of stuff. If you went to your car finance company, you're effectively in a similar sort of position. You're like you say, you're allowed to ask for it. So okay. Looking after the properties then, maintenance issues and that sort of stuff. Big changes here, obviously, with the lockdown. Freedom of movement's been restricted somewhat, but we still feel like we've got obligations to look after the properties to make sure tenants have got a safe place to live. So, I mean, what can we do? What can't we do at the moment?
Yeah, so just to sort of a bit of a caveat, again, it's a very fluid situation at the minute. So it's literally changed. MHCLG came out with something yesterday or a day from the day before. So it is very, very much a moving target at the minute. The way we are doing it, and we've actually put it on our Facebook page, is non-essential repairs we're not dealing with at the minute. That's what we're saying. Gas, electric, and it's got to be emergency. Then we will deal with it. But for like a light bulb's gone, or the pull cord's gone, or there's a cracked tile, forget it. It's just not happening. Yeah. Not only do we not recommend it, a lot of our contractors are just blatantly refusing to go out. It's just very difficult. If you do, I mean, we have got a couple that are going out. I mean, there was a one that was a distribution board was sparking, so he's been out and fixed that. But we asked the filtering questions: are you self-isolating? Have you got any of the corona symptoms? We've got a social distancing protocol. You've got to stand 2 meters away. Can you be out of the room? Actually, can you literally just do a video call, show the guy what's wrong? When he comes, can you open the door and step back? So call us paranoid, call us being a bit overcautious, but we've just got to make sure that everybody is happy about this at this time, because it's panicky. Everybody's actually a little bit on tenterhooks at the moment. So at the minute, we are getting some frivolous repairs, but as soon as we explain what the situation is, they are fine in their understanding. No one's kicked off or made a complaint or been unreasonable. It has been quite well received.
Okay. And in terms of landlord's responsibility to ensure repairs are done in a reasonable amount of time, I guess we've got a bit of a break on this at the moment as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at generation rent and shelter, they're like, you've still got your legal obligations, but then back in the real world where people have got half a brain, then people understand that it's a very difficult time for everybody, and I would not want to put any of my contractors or some of my tenants at risk. For the sake of a cracked tile. Gas safeties, even if you look at the gas safe register, they are, even the gas safe register is sort of saying, yes, but only if everybody's comfortable, social distancing protocol, everybody's happy, no one's got symptoms. So even they are saying, look, guys, let's just be sensible about this. Let's use a bit of common sense.
Yeah. So you don't think there are going to be any crackdowns on landlords who aren't doing sort of minor repairs over the next couple of weeks?
Absolutely. I mean, you've got to take a mitigating circumstances, like, has the landlord known about this for a year and has just been an arse and not done them? Is the repair gradually getting worse? Has a 3-year-old kid really badly hurt themselves? Or is it a case of the tenant just reported it yesterday, expects it to be done now, and it's a cracked tile? So in the main, I think 99% of jobs, absolutely fine, just wait. Because what we've got to understand again is by sending people out, we're actually making the problem worse. Because if that contractor catches something, then takes it back, I think if people are just reasonable and say, listen, I'm just going to hand fire, I'm self-isolating for 3, 4, 5 weeks, however long this is. The sooner we get this done, the sooner we all go back to normality, and the sooner I can get my repairs done.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. I think you mentioned gas safety certificates there when speaking to our gas safe guy earlier in the week. I think he said that they have been told they are that they're on the list as a sort of key worker for things like gas leaks.
Yeah.
Like if you need a heating repair, they can go. So they are still able to go and do
Yes.
the work if it is an
Yeah.
emergency.
Yeah. Emergency ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spot on.
Okay.
Same like sparkies, like electricians. So things like that. So yeah, any emergencies where it's threat of life or loss of life, then yes, that can go out there.
Okay, perfect. And then I guess from a sort of a viewings, a maintenance, sorry, not a maintenance, like check-ins, check-outs, all that sort of stuff, the stuff that you would normally be dealing with day in, day out. I don't think so there was an NLA call earlier in the week talking about expectations for banning viewings and that sort of stuff. I don't think any official guidance has come out on it yet, but I mean,
we're not doing any. Just we take what good old Boris has said. We don't class as a viewing as an essential
okay.
Work activity. Even with the self distancing protocols, I think it's just too much risk.
Yep.
He said originally 3 weeks. We're doing virtual tours, we're doing virtual viewings. If it's an empty house, that's something that we are considering at the minute. But at the moment, our legal advice is just to not do them. Check-ins, check-outs as well. We have had people move out in the last week, and some people are due to move out in the next week. But we're not carrying out the checkout while they're there. We're saying we can check out, but it's going to have to be a couple of days after you move out.
Yeah. So you leave it in the condition that you're happy to post the key through the letterbox, and we'll pick it up when we're ready to.
What we're saying to them is as well, because somebody said, well, what happens if I go in and it's wrecked? And it wasn't like that when I was there. Brilliant. Go around with your mobile phone, ping us the video, and then we'll make sure it compares and contrasts with it.
Yeah. Okay. So viewing's completely off the table for you. Just not worth the risk.
Yeah.
Checkouts, they can be done on their own.
Yes.
Check-ins, obviously without doing viewings, you aren't going to have many check-ins. If there was something in process prior to this coming in, if someone was ready to move in this week, that sort of thing, are you continuing with them?
Yes, and I think we've got viewings. I don't get involved in the day-to-day running. I think up until Saturday we've got move-ins,
okay.
And then after that we don't have anything.
Yep.
What we've said to people is we've had a couple fall down who needed it like next week or the week after, but the vast majority of people we've said, listen, we're moving it in this week, and then this is the last week that we're moving it in. So you either move in this week or you can move in 2 months or 3 months. And the vast majority of people have brought forward the move-ins.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so I mean, I guess again, it's been flexible, and in some ways, that's probably gonna help a little bit if you're getting them in the door and getting the tenancy signed quicker.
It is. It's cash flow as well, isn't it? So it's great for the tenant, great for the landlord, and is the guy in the middle, the agent. It's good for us as well.
Okay, and we're rattling through this. I've just seen another question here that I'll jump onto. So in terms of the because this kind of leads us into longer term predictions of the market and where it's going. Different sectors within the market, are you seeing any hit more than others? Do you think one will be hit more than others? I mean, serviced accommodation just seems to have been hammered. That's kind of it's not the market that you deal in on a day-to-day basis, but you've probably seen people struggling with that. And again, rent to rent, not something that you deal with. Well, I don't know actually. Do you do much on a sort of guaranteed rent or anything like that?
Yeah, we've got a few. We've got rent to own, which is slightly different. I mean, the one thing I was talking to my MD the other day about it, and I said I was just joking, having a laugh, saying, they mocked me and laughed at me when I said LHA was the way forward, but now LHA is literally the safest.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah.
It's as if I predicted it 10 years ago when I first got started.
If only you could bottle that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it's a good point though. If you are sitting with LHA tenants, you're probably going to be like semi-secure at the moment. From an HMO point of view, the bulk of what we deal with, we're kind of. I feel like we're kind of protected because in a house with 6 people, even if 1 or 2 of them stop paying rent, we're still getting 60-70%. It gives us a bit of a buffer. Obviously, if they all stop paying, that's a bigger issue. But it gives us some protection there. Student sector, I don't deal with that at all. Have you got any involvement with student lets?
We don't, but I've got a couple of my training clients and coaching clients who have got it, and it's all right. I mean, going to HMOs, it's working well, like you say. The only thing is, it's a bit more difficult because you get a little bit, with massive amount of due respect to students in HMO. Sometimes they can be a little bit pompous and arsey.
Yep.
So you've got to stay in your room. Yeah, exactly. Entitled's a better word. RC is a little bit rude, but yeah. So he says it's doable. It's just we've got 6 people to talk about when they're in, when they're out, and disinfecting and social distancing. Yeah. So a couple of the guys were students. I saw a chap on one of the letting agency forums that I'm on. He said he's absolutely brilliant. He hasn't actually furloughed anybody. He's got a small team, but he hasn't had to furlough anybody. But then you're looking at other people who've got bigger teams. They've had to furlough 50% of the staff because a lot of the students have gone home. They're saying, well, I'm not signing for next year. You can't expect me to pay, even though I'm in a contract. I'll see you in court. And, what can you do? It's an unprecedented. I hate that word. I was nearly going to say the unprecedented word, but
it's kind of like coronavirus bingo at the moment, isn't it?
Oh, geez. I think we should ban that word once this is all over. But it's unusual times. So they're trying to say, well, do you think the court's going to ever side on your side despite your contract? So I think there's certain sectors that are hit really hard. I mean, I've got a mini business centre that I've built. It sounds really grand. It's an old pub that we converted into a mini business centre, and I've got a travel agent in there. Down the street, I've got another shop. I rent that to a travel agent. I've got a chair hire cover company that I rent another one of my shops to. So all of them have been hit. So, they've come to me saying, can we have this rent, that rent reduced, that rent reduced? And I've just said, yeah, we'll give you one wanted half price, one wanted a couple of months free. Yeah. So we've done our bit to sort of help them out. So I think travel agents are really massively hit. Events companies, outdoor companies, anything that's sort of outdoors or rents out or options on assets like a service accommodation. I mean, I really feel for some of the guys on there. They must be devastated.
Yeah, it's tough. But like you say, with your commercial tenants, you got to think long term. If you say to them no, they go out of business, they go bust, you're not going to be able to let that for a couple of months at least. And if we do fall into something resembling a recession, it could be longer. You got to be pragmatic during this. I think that's
And it's nice to be nice. It is people before profits, and you'd like to hope that they would do the same to you if you found yourself in trouble. And plus, I'm thinking selfishly, I'll get a couple of cheap holidays, so it's not all bad.
Well, yeah, this is true. This is true. It'll come down to a sort of barter economy. You'll be set. You'll have all the chair covers you need and all the holidays you want.
Yeah, good point.
So longer term then, are you thinking, will it get back to business as usual at some point? Do you think there's a big recession coming? I mean, I know I'm not expecting you to have a crystal ball, but what are your thoughts on the market at the moment?
Gut feel, and again, it depends on how long this goes on. But if it goes on for a short period of time, although it might not feel, let's say 3 to 4 months, I think it's going to then take a little bit of a price sort of a correction in the market, but then I think properties are, we're going to take a bit of a hit. If there's no transactions or a lot less transactions, things aren't selling, then the price is going to reduce, but only slightly. I do think that there will be a mini boom in property. Now it's a little bit like this: if I've got something you want, but I'm telling you can't have it for whatever reason, you just can't have it, mate. You can't have it. And all of a sudden I say, there you go. You're going to go for it with a bit of gusto. And I think that's exactly what's happening here. We are still getting asked to go out and value properties.
Yeah.
This morning, we are still getting offers on properties. So it's still for sale. So it's happening. It just needs that get out of it. It's all safe. We can, it's not like wearing SARS masks and whatnot. We can walk on the street without being a leper. And as soon as that happens, I do think there's going to be a mini boom. Nothing like, pre-2004, 5, 6, nothing like that. But the correction of the dip that we're inevitably going to see, and then maybe a little bit of growth. I'm always the optimist, Michael, so I might be wrong, but that's my gut feel.
You know what? I don't know if you buy into this. I'm not one for sort of mindset stuff massively, but I do think that as a country, we will talk ourselves in or out of what happens next. If it's a recession, it's because I know that's I can't say we bring it on ourselves, but if we all start pulling our cash out of deals, if we stop, the market slows down because of our actions, and we can kind of keep things going to an extent.
Well, if you look at, 0.1% interest rate, and that's going to be there for the foreseeable future, just to help the economy turn. So you've got a lot of people who are, nothing in the bank, all of a sudden they want to get into property.
Yeah.
So it's a good business to be in, if you like.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of sort of what I would say misconceptions doing the rounds. Just to touch on them, and then we'll get this wrapped up. If there's any final
Right.
questions, just stick them in. But one thing I saw that I thought was quite funny was coronavirus is. And sorry, that isn't such.
Sorry, Michael.
We got another expert on the panel.
I know, yeah.
I was about to say that this could sound as though it's in such protest, and it's not meant at all. But I was going to by funny, I think the way that it's been misconstrued. Some people are posting on Facebook saying this is going to kill so many people that there's going to be an influx of property on the market that's going to wipe out because there will be such a high supply of empty units. And you look at the numbers of it, even with a horrific sort of impact rate, death rate, it was something like 0.0007% of the population would be impacted by this. I cannot see there being enough impact from this pandemic to have such an influx of new property on the market to really impact it significantly. So
I agree. I think, a lot of these people are very ill people, they're a lot old or infirm, so there's a lot of people in care homes. Yes, they could have properties that are just sitting there or being sold to pay for them, but you've got a lot of people in council houses as well because the age and demographic this is affecting is the older generation.
Yeah.
They may not have their own property because they are looked after in residential care homes. So I don't think. I mean, do you know what? I'm hoping there's not that many houses on the market because if that's the case, then there's not that many people dying from it. So again, we're just hoping that it doesn't affect as many people as some of the statistics say.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the final two things just to get your view on. Anyone who is housing European citizens, people from overseas, everyone is sort of heading home at the moment, maybe won't come back. Brexit is obviously going to impact that at all. Do you think that will have an impact on certain market segments?
I do, but I don't think it's going to be mass exodus. I mean, the UK is a pretty damn good place to be and live and work. So I think from a lot of the Europeans, it's either a very, very free democratic society, despite what some people say, the conspiracists say in the UK, and then you've got somewhere that in middle Europe doesn't have quite the niceties in the democratic society that they have. So I don't think we're going to see a mass. I mean, yes, I think to start off with Brexit and going home and be close to the loved ones, I think and we are seeing quite a lot of our Polish. We've got a lot of Polish and Romanians, and they have gone home and not come back, but they'll come back eventually. It's too good a place for them to be here and there.
Yeah. And then the final thing was just lenders drying up, as we saw after the last recession. Now, we touched on this yesterday with Lisa. Some of the challenger banks are definitely losing their funding lines, but a lot of the high street ones apparently still got plenty of cash available and are still lending. From the sales side of things, you said you've still got offers coming in and stuff. Are you still seeing sales completing? Are you still seeing things progressing and banks sticking to offers?
Sales completing has slowed down as you'd expect, but it's not because of the lenders, it's because of the solicitors.
Sure.
So they're just not open. So there's a couple of good solicitors that we're using that are actually working from home. I mean, they're making things, really simple and easy for us. A couple of the other guys are just shutting shop and not even returning calls, or we're getting out of office emails.
Yeah, that's difficult.
But let's just put it, Michael, they will be remembered when this is over.
Yeah, very true, very true. But yeah, I mean, I think from what we saw yesterday, it was sort of good advice for the general market. Some of the more specialist lenders, some of your smaller bridging and development stuff is sort of struggling a little bit. But your high street banks, they've still got money, they're still lending. We've not really seen the knock on from the interest rate reduction, and apparently we probably won't. But it's still, you're still talking 3.5% on a mortgage. It's not expensive compared to what you've probably seen in the past. So I think a lot of people are worried about longer term, and for us, I think we just need to keep going. I think we're going to keep investing. We're obviously going to keep our existing portfolio, keep looking after our tenants the best way that we can. Nobody's got a crystal ball, but I'm hopeful that it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there's a good phrase that I quite like to use, and it's how we act in tough times, we will be looked upon in the good times. So if we become horrible to our tenants now, then what's that going to say when the going gets good? So it's nice to be nice. It's a difficult time for everybody, not just you, not me, the tenants. So I just think if we can all pull together as a country and as a business, landlords, tenants, then I'm sure we'll get through this.
Yeah. Good stuff. Perfect. Okay, well, that was everything I wanted to cover. I think we've got through all the questions that we'd been asked. So good stuff. I appreciate your time again. All the best. Hope you and your family stay well and you don't go too stir crazy in isolation. We'll speak again soon.
Good to speak to you, Mike.
All right,
cheers, mate.
See you later. Bye. Okay, we have lost JP. For those of you that are still hanging around, hopefully that was valuable. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I think, like I say, he's a knowledgeable guy. He's got a huge number of tenants to look after, and I really liked his approach of just getting involved in those conversations with him, with them, helping them understand their situation, show compassion and empathy. But equally, don't be an easy target. You've got to think about your business. You've got to think about your own family. A lot of them, with the measures that have been put in place, with the sort of 80% wage payment from the government, with apparently easier access to universal credit, with a whole bunch of different measures that are being introduced for the self-employed and small business owners, most people should hopefully continue to be able to pay most, if not all, of their rent. So hopefully that gives you a bit of peace of mind there. Take on board what he said about non-essential maintenance. Make sure you're looking after any emergencies with your properties, but everything else I think can be put on hold and wait. We obviously have a big announcement coming up in about 20 minutes. If you're watching this on repeat, it will already have happened, and you'll know more than me at this moment in terms of what's going to be announced for self-employed. But we will have another call either tomorrow or Monday with an accountant who's been following this closely to get their view on all of the different measures that are available for us as investors, landlords, small business owners. So if you want to find out about the grants, the loans, and everything that Rishi mentions this afternoon as well, make sure you join us. I'd be grateful whilst you're still here if you could give this video a like. I just want to make sure as many people as possible are getting this advice. Obviously, we're not selling anything here. We just want to share good information to help our community get through the next couple of weeks. So giving it a big like on YouTube would be great. Subscribe to our channel if you want to catch up with the rest of the videos as they are coming out over the next couple of days. We've got a few more lined up, and give us a shout as well if we can help in any way, or if you've got any subjects that you'd like to be covered, let us know. I wish you all the best. Keep in touch, keep your chins up, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers guys, thanks a lot for joining us.